boy. She will know who I am. Yes, she will. She reads the site. She does not read the site. She reads the site. That's very nice of you to say, Lizzo laughed, but she does not read the site. He waved me off and we sat in silence until we got to the hall. I'd never been to Royal Albert Hall before and expected some sort of theatrical structure, but it looked instead like a walled-off Roman Colosseum. Instead of a red carpet, a stretch of green astroturf resembling a Quidditch pitch stretched from doors to curb. Lizzo had a special spot waiting for him inside, so we said our goodbyes, and I hurried over to the gaggle of press and the sign-in table, looking for someone from Scholastic so that I could get set up. When she heard my name, a petite, golden-haired woman bounded out from behind a table and grabbed my hand. She was Chris Moran, the publicist at Scholastic with whom I most often spoke. "The Leaky Cauldron!" she shouted. I offered a nervous laugh while she introduced me to the other Scholastic people, the other keepers of the kingdom, and I realized for the first time that they weren't palace guards or security trolls. They were people around my age who worked at a children's book publishing house. Chris walked me over to the carpet, and although my feet stopped at the entrance to the press bullpen, hers didn't. I stumbled a bit, but rushed to follow her as she led me across the aisle to the much cooler, more sparse area where a group of 20 competition winners were waiting with their books. "You'll be over here," she told me, and I barely had a chance to look at her gratefully before another Scholastic person walked me in. "Over here" meant a for sure signed book, and even just a split second to say hello to Ms. Rowling. "Over here" meant I wasn't just press anymore, or perhaps not press at all. The competition winners had been flown over from America and were all well-groomed kids of varying ethnicities, the kind of teens that always win essay contests, spelling bees, and physics championships, the kind of teen I had been. They were at the Geeks' Ball, showing ease and confidence they probably didn't always have in school. We talked and waited, my nerves getting more abrasive with each passing second. I opened and closed my book, reread passages. The overcrowded press pen looked as messy and sticky as a crumpled wad of used flypaper. Ready to meet her? Lizzo was hanging over the barrier looking smugly at me. Not gonna happen, but I couldn't even keep that up now. Okay, maybe it's gonna happen. Maybe I'm gonna meet her. I hadn't ever considered the words long enough to believe them, and coming out of my mouth, they felt hollow and numb. I clutched my big blue copy of Order of the Phoenix tightly. On the other side of the carpet, I saw a petite, black-haired woman bobbing up and down, one arm waving over her head. "Liz!" I screamed. My friend Liz, who was studying in London, had come to see the spectacle. "You're gonna meet her!" she yelled back. I groaned. A black car pulled up at the base of the carpet, and the reporters moved as though one many-legged body, falling over themselves to get to the brightly dressed woman who had just exited the car. Everything around me changed. The challenge winners stood in a tense line, giving each other excited smiles and holding their books out for signing. Lizzo disappeared into the hall's vestibule, recording his piece. I started fumbling. I dropped my tape recorder, which I had brought because I thought I was going to be pressed. I dropped my book and fumbled to get the cover on right. I dropped my pen and started shifting through my bags like a bag lady, and all the time Jo Rowling was working her way down the line, having given the obligatory photo op of her with her book to the press, and now doing a mad signing that was making her look like a streak of white blonde hair with a hand attached. I had to get ready or miss her. I gathered myself just in time, and as she signed the book of the person next to me, I dropped my pen again. Why were my fingers like little sausages suddenly? When she appeared in front of me, I put my hand possessively over the cover of my book. She looked down at the book and then back up at my frozen face and laughed a little as if to say, "Hey, I'm going to need that if you want a signature." But if I was going to make a fool of myself in front of J.K. Rowling, I was going to make a fool of myself all the way. So I stuttered out the speech I had prepared in my head, except I didn't get very far. "Hi, Miss Rowling, my name is Melissa. I work on a site called The Leaky Cauldron. I love The Leaky Cauldron," she shrieked, and threw herself on me in a hug, shocking me to my bones. She had nearly launched herself over the barrier and now broke away, smiling widely at me, and I was sure that I had somehow actually nodded off at my MTV Network's desk and entered my wildest dreams. Turn around, I heard from somewhere to my right, and I looked dazedly to see Lizzo wearing an impossibly knowing and smug grin and holding up his camera phone. Jo and I each had one arm around the other and were smushing our heads together as Lizzo took the shot. I finally handed her my book and found the purpose for the tape recorder still in my hands. I asked her if she would say hello to her fans and pressed record. "Hello to everyone who's on the Leaky Cauldron fan site, which is my favorite fan site," she said, and then gave me a final smile and was whooshed away. Only after Lizzo had said, "I told you so," and Liz had recreated the moment for me several times at my request, did I finally think to open my book. It read, "I love the Leaky Cauldron, J.K. Rowling." So if any of you have any questions about the book, I'd be happy to answer them. There's so much quiet.
What was the most interesting thing that you found out about just being part of the fandom that you thought, this is amazing to me, just seeing everyone
The fandom over 7 years, there's never one thing. Everything is kind of a wave. I mean, you go to a conference and you see people, like for instance, there's a Leaky staff member who goes around conferences dressed as Dolores Umbridge, and when after she spent the first 3 days in the full pink getup, and then the last day it was post Centaur's Umbridge, so she was all trampled on, and she had, you know, like mud and leaves, but previous she was going around giving people detention. She was writing with red stuff on their hands, and then after the Centaur she was walking around kind of, you know, in a daze and not forming full sentences. So that kind of stuff is the most interesting thing at the time. Right before book 7 came out, the intense craziness that happened with the spoiling of the book, where the book was available online and in stores. A friend of mine texted me right before, a couple of hours before the book came out, saying, "I'm sitting in the airport and I'm staring at the book." You know, at that time, that's the most. There's so much. It's never just one thing. But what's been the best thing has been being part of this enormous community that's been so wow. Good going, Bree. Yeah. That's my friend Bree, everybody. She's so excited she's throwing things. So yeah, no, it changes from minute to minute. Quiet, Harry Potter fans, quiet.
We know all.
Do you have any plans for any more books?
Yes, I'm not exactly sure what they are at the moment.
Scottish book.
The Scottish book? I'm not writing the Scottish book. Let no one be confused about that fact. I'm not writing an encyclopedia. No, I mean, I have some Harry-related ideas, have some non-Harry-related ideas. I don't, it's kind of wonderful. I don't 100% know right now. And that's cool for me. That's exciting. So.
Talk about, I guess, an example why you think this fandom is so much more diverse amongst the age and gender and other things than a lot of the other fantasy, sci-fi.
The question, in case nobody heard it, was why I think this fandom is more diverse than some of the other fantasy, sci-fi. What's really interesting about a Harry Potter conference is it's one of the only sci-fi conferences you'll go to, and it's mostly female. You go to Star Wars, it's mostly male. You know, you go to Comic-Con, it's heavily male. I'm not sure I know 100%, but I do know that sci-fi doesn't normally appeal so strongly to young girls. That's not an audience it usually gets. I think it's because there's been some strong female characters from the very beginning, and because the J.K. Rowling moniker, I think, was very, very successful in not showing whether she was a female or a male, and that helped attract readers early on. And then once you have that early base, it just grew outward from there. And it's, I think, mostly because the books are just so universal. They're about such huge universal themes. A lot of heroes' journey books are more heavily focused on the steps of the journey, whereas this is more focused on a lot of broad themes about life, and I think that naturally attracts people from all walks.
Which is your favorite book?
It used to be 3, but 7's my favorite. 7 is just a out of the park, wonderful book. Yeah.
Did J.K. Rowling have any tips for you as a writer?
J.K. Rowling, yeah, she was very, some things I can't repeat, are very, but she was so enormously supportive. There's a view sometimes in fandom that it's wrong always to make any money on a book. So if you're selling a book well, and I mean on the franchise. So if you're selling a book well, even if it's something you came up with all yourself, sometimes fans get a little, well, why is she making, that's not right. And J.K. Rowling's attitude towards it was, well, it's your job. You're a writer. It's kind of your job. That she was totally, not that we even ever got into that conversation, but she just came out with it. Somehow we waved onto that vein of fan sentiment, and she said, well, it's your job, She also gave me some great advice about copy editing, because when copy edits come back, and it's totally